Something happened to me in '43 that has haunted me all my life. And I was on detached service from the 363rd to Hamadan, which was Ecbatan during the Bible time. We were building a way station at Hamadan for these truck drivers. Abbas was the father, and his son was from a group that had turned out to be excellent truck drivers. So one day we were loading rock and we looked toward the mountain, and you could see it very plain with this little white cap on top. And I said, Mount Ararat. Oh, yeah, and that's where his home was. And I said, that's where the ark is. Yeah, his daddy knew where it was and went up there quite often. So I said, boy, would I like to go up there and see that. And so one day he brought his dad over and introduced him. We talked about the ark quite a bit, about the trip up there. He said it was hard, and you never knew one day what was going to happen on the mountain the next. The mountain was still covered with snow, and that was about the 1st of June. So he said, if the mountain clears up and melts off where you can see it, and they went up there, he'd come and get me. And I thought, yeah, okay. So that kind of ended that. And I thought, well, forget about it. But a few days later, here he come. He said the mountain is melting and part of the ark is visible. And he said, let's go. So I went to the company commander and told him what was going on. He said, I can't do that, that I'd get murdered. And I said, well, boy, I sure would like to go. He said, I know you would. So I started to walk off, and he said, listen, he said, I guess I could send you to Tehran, and you could take a delay en route and get up there. And so that, he said, get your truck greased and get an extra barrel of gas and a case of oil and some extra tires so you'll be prepared. So it didn't take long to get things going. So Abbas and I left. We went almost to Hamadan and to Kazvin, and then turned there and went up paralleling the Russian border for quite a ways. And then we got in the foothills, and sometime after dark, we arrived at this village. But he said that this is the village where Noah drank the wine and got drunk, which is a quote in their Koran and also in the Bible. And there is grapevines up there that you can't reach around them. They are so big, bunches of them. They have artifacts and articles out of the ark in his storeroom. They have doors, they have lamps, they have tools. They found them when the ark broke in two. Some of these doors was woven twigs together, and it was probably 40 inches high and maybe 36. To them, the whole thing is sacred. It's hard to express the feeling. I had no idea what was coming next. We rode that night, and we were still in the foot of the mountains all the way, and we arrived at a village. It was still dark. We went inside, and Abbas told all these boys in there who I was, I helped their village 2 different occasions on 2 things. And the boss was very grateful for that, and all the village folks as far as that goes. In fact, they now have water back running through the village again. And that was the one thing that really put me in good stead with them. They brought a string of horses up, and they adjusted my stirrups, put me on there, and my pack, and we rode. It seemed like an awful long time. You couldn't see your hand in front of you at times, and you couldn't see if the horses did where they were going, we would have been in a bad shape. Very shortly after that, we got off because the road was so bad. So they left the horses there. They'd tell me we were going in through the back door, and that we stopped in this cave that night, and it rained practically all night. You'd take 3 steps and slide back 2. Now, we were 3 days going up the mountain, but it would rain, that cold rain, and you couldn't keep warm. You know what I mean. It just penetrated you. The wind is always blowing. Well, no, sometimes there's a calm, and you turn around and here's the wind again. Now it seems kind of like a dream. It was slicker. There was more rocks coming down. There was more water coming down. And we had more of those tremors. The end of the 3rd day is when we come to this last cave. The next morning, it was real rainy and foggy. We waited around there till the fog lifted some. Then we made the trip around behind Doomsday Rock. You felt like that someone was watching you. And I don't know hardly how to put it, but it's an eerie feeling. And then we waited a while, and the fog kind of lifted, and it shone through kind of a funnel, and it showed the ark in the end. You could see in the end of it. Then here comes this sun shining through a hole, which makes it even more mystical, and it's a beautiful sight. You are filled with awe. You stand there with your mouth wide open, and then all of a sudden it just closes. Then it raised, and we saw both parts. You could see the timbers in the end of the ark. They were sticking out like this. The end of the ark is broke off out there, had them like that, kind of twisted and turned out and gnarled. Most of it is covered up in this talus of rock. It may be 3 pieces of that ark. The water is coming down here 100 feet, going under the end of it, and it's washing out. The big piece is sitting straight up and down across here. And it's under here, and part of this end is sticking out here, maybe 15 or 20 feet, where it's cutting under. There is grooves in the door. There's grooves in the side of the ship, and they are filled with pitch. And when you let the door down, The water holds it to close tight, and those pitch seals seal it. It was raining, and they said we'd have to go down on ropes. And if it cleared up the next day, we would go down. And the next morning, it was snowing, and it was really coming down. It was belt deep almost on me. He said we better get out of there while we could, get me back. You couldn't see anything then on down there. It was just a solid sheet of snow. And they are so pleased when it stays under cover. And they said for 30 or 40 years, it didn't show up. It stayed covered up. I was so elated for what I saw. It kind of built me up, but I was disappointed that I didn't get to touch it. I was beginning to get a wee bit loose, so to speak. And about the third day coming down, it really hit me. And by the time I got to the bottom, I smelled like the bottom of a bird cage. And I went on into Turan, and I parked the truck in the motor pool and went up to the headquarters, and they told me to go take a bath and change clothes, because I was pretty rank. And it took quite a bit of scrubbing to get my legs clean from my knees down. And my clothes, they just burned them. About the only thing I saved was my belt, this light, and nobody seemed to be interested or care about where I'd been or what I had done. I dreamed about it every night for 20 years. There's something up there.
interpreting photographs since 1962. Learned my trade in the military. Have interpreted photographs for different government agencies until 1990. My specialty was finding subsurface targets, anomalies, cataloging them, tracking them if they were moved, and mainly subsurface types of technology. So the photograph was ordered up, satellite photograph, and we took it to our lab. And the photograph then is actually put into one of our own processes, which is a laser process. The process used is a PAM, we call it PAMS type process, and that's photo analysis material spectra, in which we're pulling up a spectra on the object to make sure it is a man-made object, organic, rather than a geologic type formation. And then we use what we call perforation, which we take plugs out of that area. In other words, we get, instead of looking for the needle in the haystack, we get rid of the hay to find the needle, and that's what we do. We perforate the area and pull those plugs out until we come back with an image of whatever is on the target area. So this process was done on the mountain, on the Turkey side. On that mountain there is a rectangular shape of a man-made object, two of them, one above the other. It looks like maybe 1,200 foot difference. Both objects look like they were joined at one time because there is a spectral trail going down to the other. They're sitting in a fault on a ledge. The upper one is hanging. They're both in a glacier. The terrain is just treacherous. And the last time I looked would be last year. There was about 40 foot of ice over the upper object, and the lower one I can't tell because it's too much of an angle. They're man-made, they're not geologic, they're not a geologic square rock formation. They're organic at one time. The spectra shows that they're organic. They're not a mineral, they're not metal. The spectra is completely different from metal to organic type formation. It's a solid mass of except for one end of it facing downhill, it tapers off, the spectra does, so that shows me that maybe, that's what makes me think it's a building or something, because that shows that it is, there's an opening. In the same way, facing up from down in the fault, again, the spectra fades off, so this shows that it's a building of some sort, or whatever that the man-made object is. Trying to interpret the lower piece was a lot harder. In fact, I didn't even see it for a long time until I kept on rerunning the process, making sure I can say, hey, here's 100%. There is a man-made object. That go ahead and go up there and look for it, or drill the ice, or whatever. So after months of redoing this photograph, in fact, I ordered another photograph to check it to make sure I wasn't getting some kind of a false, as we call a ghost or an echo. And again, the lower object below it, which I think is about 1,200 feet. Again, it's hard to tell because of the ice. There is a spectra trail. So I know the two pieces were attached at one time. It's definitely not military for the reason is it couldn't be in use because of the ice all the time. It's a barren area as far as the mountain. There's no trees or anything out there. So for somebody to take something up there, haul it up there, and build the thing of this size, it would be amazing feat. I was amazed, totally amazed, because like I say, I went into this with not believing in Noah's Ark in the first place. Only thing I could say, and 100% sure, it is a man-made object, so I'm not going to go along and say it's an ark until I've seen it myself. I could see where if there was dry years or warm years where this glacier would melt back, that something up there on this ledge like it is would break off from the weight and go on down the mountain. Where this, again, I don't know if this is the original location of this object, or maybe if it was higher, it slid down throughout the centuries. That wasn't my job. My job was to say, hey, is there something up there? If so, is it man-made? And I'm 100% sure there is a man-made object up there at this altitude on that side of the mountain.
This is a high-resolution video camera, and what we'll do is put your photo on a light table and focus this camera down on that photo. Let me see if I can increase the contrast. Now I'm beginning to see some more detail in here now. It looks like a corner to me. It certainly does not look natural. It looks very strikingly man-made to me. Of course, there are no scale cues in here, so we can't really tell how big it is. But just from the shape of the thing, I would say that you've got something strange here. What I see when I look at this is something that stands out from the rest of the terrain, and that is what looks like a rectangular, or I should say a solid structure with sharp edges. This could be a little a sloping or slanted roof in this area, or and it looks like the snow or ice covers part of this up. And then there are some lighter areas. It almost looks like we're looking into the end of this thing, and that the back of it is still buried under the ice. You'll never know until you get up there and can see it and stand next to it. But it's the rectilinear outline suggests to me that this isn't a normal part of a glacier.
In the year 1968, a friend and I were employed at the Smithsonian in the vertebrate paleontology section under the direction of Robert Geist and Al Merrick. After we'd been there about, I guess, a month, several crates were delivered to our section, which seemed to cause quite a bit of interest among the directors. So they went ahead and opened them up and took out several artifacts like old wood and some old style tools, things like that. They had some photographs, which I went over and looked at, arranged on a table that had been taken from a balloon, they told me, showing a ship-like object down in some ice. So I took a look at it and talked to them some on it, and I was told it was Noah's Ark. And I looked at the artifacts, and that was the general impression I got at the time, that they'd found it. My friend and I were going to lunch. We passed the loading dock on our way to the cafeteria, and we saw a couple of crates there marked Mount Ararat, the National Geographic Smithsonian Expedition. And that's what everybody was talking about for 3 or 4 days. That was all you heard was, about this thing they found, Noah's Ark that they identified. And there was quite a bit of excitement about it. After about 5 days, though, it started changing a little bit. They didn't talk anymore. They started taking the stuff out. The questions we'd ask, they just kind of ignore us. And finally, they pretty well came out and told everybody to keep their mouth shut.
It may be 3 pieces of that ark. There's something up there.